the unity among us. You and I think wise, it's a unity. Yeah, no, this a good work, you know what I'm saying?
Umoja ni nguvu, utengano udhaifu, tukisimama.
Welcome, Jana.
Hello, thank you.
Welcome to AFRO CANNES 2023. So a brief introduction. Jana Wolff studied communication in social and economic context at the Berlin University of Arts and has been active in the film industry since the late 90s. She has been working for Benilale and the EFM as well as many other national and international film festivals in various positions. She was head of PR and festival distribution at the German Film and Television Academy, DFFB, head of acquisition and sales at Pluto Film, and is now in charge of marketing at the European film market, where she's also responsible for the Country in Focus program. That's many hats you're wearing, Jana. So today we're talking about how to access international markets, and of course we have a lot of filmmakers in the room, mostly from the African continent. And I'm sure they're wondering how best, with all of your experience, how best you think in an age where we have moved from cinema, from the specific genres specific to cultures, and now we're going on to the global stage through the SVODs. How best would you advise the average filmmaker from Africa to approach the international film market, and what should they look out for, and what boxes must they tick?
Well, I think it's a quite a complex field actually to access markets, because I mean, the first step is always on the national market, of course. When you're dealing well with the national market, of course, everybody wants to level up and to go onto the international level. And film markets play a crucial role within the exploitation chain of films. So when you're developing a project, or you have a work in progress, or even a finished film that's presented in a festival, which is the best case, and then of course you would like to put yourself out there. But and we have like 3 major markets in the world, which is like the year's always starting with the European film market. Then we have Cannes, and there's the American film market, and all these markets work in a different way as well. So Berlin has the advantage of having an audience festival attached, which is great because you can be in direct touch with the audience. The films that are screened in the festival are also screened in the market. They're watched by my mother and by your father, you know, so you have a direct feedback. Cannes is completely different because only industry. The American film market doesn't have a film market attached at all. And of course it's a challenge because it's big. The good thing is everybody's there. You can basically meet everybody, a distributor, a potential co-producer, a salesperson, festival people, programmers. So everybody's in this market, everybody's running around, but of course the challenge is like how to get hold of these people, right? So because especially when you're at the beginning of your career and you don't have a big name yet, people might not necessarily be interested in you from the very beginning. I mean, we know the industry, it's a cruel and harsh industry, right? It's not like with open arms welcoming everybody who's there. Everybody's running around with the same goal. So I think the first question is always that you should ask yourself is like, what do I want? Yeah, what's my goals? I'm coming to Cannes, I'm coming to Berlin. What do I want? Like, whom am I looking for? And then really prepare well. So it's basically all about preparation on the first hand. Try to set up meetings up front, because just running around trying to meet people, you might get lost easily, and that's super frustrating, especially when you realize that people are not really super interested in who you are. So be prepared, try to set up meetings up front, and try to do this as much as possible and do it in a good way. So my advice would always be, don't send emails that are 2 kilometers long sending all the information. Try to make it short and informational. Try to quickly say who you are, what you do. If you have some visual example, yeah, of your work, then that's always like a teaser, but never make anything too long. Nobody's going to watch a 60-minute work in progress up front the market. People are really, they're scrolling through their messages, they're deleting. So when I was a sales agent, and that's coming from the sales agent experience, is you need to see that this person is not writing a generic email to the entire emailing list of the participants of Cannes or Berlin. So you have to do some homework up front. What's your film like? What are your reference films? What can you relate to? So if I receive an email saying like, "Hi Jana, I hope this email finds you well. I see that you as a sales agent, you are dealing with this sort of film. So I'm working on a project which is really having a reference to this kind of slate that you're working with. I would like to present you my film." Short logline, short synopsis, some visual stuff. You can always attach your PDF, you can always attach any additional material, but try to raise the attention of the person, and so they at least are invited to read what you write and to get back to you. And also never be like, don't give up, yeah, because in the most case you have to like send a follow-up reminder and send another reminder and send another reminder, and then I would say out of 300 people, 3 might get back to you. Yeah, that's also realistic. So it doesn't mean that your project is shit. It doesn't mean that you're not worth anything. But this is the reality. And so this is like the preparational work. And then once you come to market, try to see who you can meet. But in the end, you know, it's all about networking. At the end, it's always about networking, about getting to know people. So if you, for example, don't have a full schedule of meetings prepared, it's not a drama. Walk around, see who you can meet. You can always like get in touch with people. Like at this AFRO Cannes Film Festival, we can hang out here, follow a conference program, meet people that you see on stage. You see who they are, what they do. Like have a connection point already. I can talk to you afterwards now and say like, hey, it's interesting. I'm having a project. Shall we talk about it? You know, and even if it's not necessarily about that one project, perhaps it's for the next project or for the project that comes afterwards. You know, at the very beginning, it's about establishing a relationship. And even if you just connect via a glass of wine, talking about the wine, about the food, about the weather, about the cat, the dog, no matter. It's really about that, right? Like most people, they know that they are looked for, you know, and they know that like, I'm going to be like, hello, I'm there. Like, this is my project. So, and they will be like, oh yeah, okay, thanks, nice to meet you. I think I really have to go to the toilet. So try to establish a personal connection first. Try to talk about something. Of course, mention who you are, but don't overwhelm these people because they will run away immediately. Because this is what they're confronted with all day long. And so use these networking opportunities. Go around past 5 p.m., see who's holding a glass of wine in their hands, go there, grab a glass of wine, talk to those people, see who you can meet. So this networking and establishing a network, it's the most important thing. And don't be so focused on what you're exactly working on right now, but also like always think a little bit ahead, you know, don't take things too seriously. And then on the other hand, sorry for making it so long, but it's actually it's
yeah, it's great. I'm listening and learning too.
And the other thing is also, it's always nice to have a base. For example, in Berlin, we don't have the sun, we don't have the beach, but we have a very decent, very professional market that's kind of like, because it's cold and gray. So the good thing about it is like everybody's basically staying inside and not running around wherever they want to. People are spread out over I don't know how many terraces here. But we, for example, of course, we have the core of the market, which is the sales agent, yeah, trying to make business, the producers looking for the sales agents. But we also have a conference program where you can connect to, that you can participate in, that's open to all market badge holders. And we have all these cocktails, happy hours. And we also try to invite the African film industry to connect, because it's super interesting to look at the African film industry. The African film industry has made a major leap in this entire digital area, because we are still stuck in our cinema culture infrastructure, which is great. I love the big screen. I grew up with the big screen, but we also have to face the fact that a lot of things are happening digital and on platforms right now. And there we can actually take an example from the African film industry. So this is what we tried to do. We created the Africa Film Hub a couple of years ago, where we also had a conference program. We don't have these platforms anymore in Berlin, because we said like, it's nicer to create one industry program, because if I am a documentary producer from Africa, then you're always in this conflict. Do I go join the African program, or do I join the producers program, or do I join the documentary programs? And you can't be everywhere at the same time. So now we have one consistent program, but still, of course, trying to cover the African film industry, documentary things for producers. So since we don't have the platform for the African film industry anymore, what we do have now is an African umbrella, which is basically serving as a home for everybody working with Africa, working from Africa, and the entire diaspora which is involved, because that's also been a very interesting point, because you're all around the world. The Germans are basically in Germany. It's nice, but a bit boring as well. And you are a bit like, you have much more expertise in different markets, and also about niche marketing, these kind of things. So what we are doing now, what we created this time for the first, this year for the first time, is an African umbrella stand where people can also find a home, because it's always good to be with your peers, right? It's nice to, if you're running around the market, you're lost and you feel like nobody's interested in me, then it's nice, we're like, oh, let's go to the African umbrella. At least I can meet my peers, there's a home, it's like when you go on a music festival, you always have your camp, wherever you get lost on some stage with some music artist. When you're tired of that, you go back to your camp, you meet your friends, you meet your fellows. So this is what we are trying to create, and what, of course, the film institutes of all the other countries are also doing. But we want to make this special effort. So we really invite you to join us next February in the grey, cold, nasty Berlin, in a cozy place called African Umbrella Stand, where you can have your base, have your home, and then from there conquer the market.
Very great. That's amazing. No better way to put it. In fact, you've answered within that explanation, answered some of the other questions I had. And a great takeaway for me there would be one of the greatest things and powers human beings have is beyond money and the financing and everything we seek. How you make people feel is what leaves you on their minds. And in pushing through as African filmmakers going into the international space, the impression you leave on first meet is very important, which is what you've explained. So you don't overwhelm who you're looking to have a sit down with or have a conversation with. Thank you very much for that. Another question I'd like to ask is, of course, we're in a digital era, and making films a lot cheaper. So you have a lot more filmmakers making a lot. So we kind of have a lot more products than we have buyers. Do you have any idea how the buying space is opening up to accommodate more of the world and the influx of content from around the world, like the Netflix and the other platforms are already, making the world a global village by having all content from every part of the world, on their platforms. How best to get into that space for a first-time producer who may not meet the requirements? What do they look out for?
Yeah, in general, that's of course, it is a challenge because there are a lot of films, now that people don't necessarily have to shoot on 35mm anymore. Everybody can make a film. You can make a film with your iPhone, so that's really, and which is great because it gives a lot of liberty, it gives a lot of opportunity, even to me who doesn't have any money, but I can take my phone and make a great film. But on the other hand, there's a lot of content, and it's a big wave of content flowing into the market. So the regular distribution is a tough field at the moment because also due to the pandemic, of course, the numbers have gone down. So the regular distributors, so really still distributing films in the cinemas, they are looking for films that make money, let's say. Yeah, so genre does really work well. Now there's also this coming of age thing a little bit, even though the audience is kind of a bit like lost between cinema and platforms. And of course, commercial formats, romantic comedies, these kind of things. This is something that, because in the end, what distributors always say is, who wants to go to the cinema on a Friday night in order to have a good evening, and then you watch that really tough film that you come out and you feel like you need a couple of drinks afterwards, you don't have it's a lot about feel-good stuff. And if you have a social drama or something, it better be with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, so it sells. So that's the cruel reality of the regular distribution. So platforms are actually opening up a wide space for a lot of more content, but of course, it all. It's hard to access Amazon and Netflix. It's not like it's not much easier because they of course have their own productions. So if you are able to submit a script or something that they want to produce, you're really lucky. And otherwise you're of course always in the situation of promoting yourself to the platforms. It's the same. And then of course there is the advantage of having a lot of smaller platforms as well, but they don't necessarily make money. So it's a long way to Tipperary. So what you can always do with a decent film is to see, okay, in regular distribution, what can I do? For example, there's a great example of an Ethiopian film that didn't really level up, let's say, to international distribution, but then the producer found out there's a huge Ethiopian minority community in London, in the south of London. So what they did was like, okay, cool. We do direct distribution. We talk to the 4 cinemas that are in that area of London, and we're just going to place our film there for straight distribution. And the film was sold out for 4 weeks, yeah, because there is an audience and these people are looking for films from their country. So on one end you can, like, niche marketing has really become quite big. It's much more work, of course, because you don't get the mainstream audience straight away, but it makes things a bit more accessible. And on the other hand, it's with platforms, it's the same work. Like, write to the platforms, get in touch. You always need to find out who is the person in charge, who is programming this kind of film, who is programming African films, who's programming genre films. And also, since at least in Europe, that's also something which is very interesting in comparison to Africa. In Europe, it's a slow process. And the smaller platforms that we have, they are great because they're really focused, let's say, on art house films or something, but they don't necessarily make big money. So this idea of making big money is really something, especially when you're a first-time producer, first-time director, you really have to take that step back or just have a realistic view, you know? I mean, never be shy and never try to sell yourself like you're tiny like this. You always have to meet people on eye level. And if there is an asshole in front of you, well, then you just don't talk to that asshole. Even if there's the main programmer from Netflix. No, sorry for the word. Don't make yourself smaller than you are, you know? Be always upright and stand to who you are and what you do. That's the most important thing, so you don't lose respect for yourself, and it will also give you respect from other people. And of course, a good way to get your film out there is always to distribute it on festivals. To really, and this is something that you should do early when you develop a project, see who is a potential sales agent, but bearing in mind that not all the films find a sales agent, and also build a festival strategy. Very, very early. Just of course you don't know, will my film be ready in September or November? It doesn't matter. There's always an A festival where you can start. There's always a starting point for your film. And a good way to get a travel around is really festivals. That's the easiest. There's festival programmers all over the place. And once a film gets an award or good press reviews, the distributors will also get interested, and that might be your door, you know, to get it further out there. And in the end, even, I mean, we have these great German directors, they get their films to German cinemas, and you have 10,000 people watching a film out of 80 million. That's also not really a great success, but at least your film is in a cinema, right? So at the end, your goal should always, I mean, it depends on what you want, but the goal should always be okay, as many people as possible should be able to see my film. So how can I make this happen? Festivals, platforms, and even, you know, if your film is 2 years old, there is this platform from Chile, yeah, small platform that wants to show your film, but they can't really pay you a lot of minimum guarantee or something. Then you can still say, okay, cool, the film is 2 years old, it has traveled a lot of festivals, it's great. I can write on Instagram, hey guys, my film is now out in Chile. Whoever is in Chile can watch my film. So really take smaller steps and take them seriously. And aiming high is great, but within aiming high, do the small steps, and it's unfortunately a lot of work.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it makes sense that in an age, a digital age, where that is fast evolving and expanding, so it's important for people to, you know, bring their own selves into it and think out of the box and find what works for them in approaching the market.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally, so we can move on, we don't have much time left. What would you say the sales agents or the market would look for between drama and genre?
They look for films that sell.
That sell, star power too.
Yeah, and that's really, really, I mean, that is a very personal thing. And this is also something that you have to consider. At the end, these kind of things are always personal decisions, right? I might pitch you a film and you might really like it, and you will say like, yeah, I would love to work with that film, even though I know it's not going to be big, and some other person might not be doing it. So this is why when you approach sales agencies, have a decent look at their lineup. If you see they're working with commercial, big mainstream stuff, don't come there with your small drama, because they won't even get back to your email. And then also, of course, there are big names, right? Wild Bunch, Match Factory, all these companies that have films here in competition. It's great to be with a big company, and it might be a great experience as well, because it's nice to have that in your filmography. It's a good reference. But at the end, that's, for example, an experience that I made with a film from our film school, you know, an exam film from one of the students. It was accepted by Match Factory. Everybody was like super happy, but then they have a huge catalog. So the film got completely, it had a good premiere and a good festival, that was great. But after that, the film was completely lost, because they have so many films that they're working on, that the tiny films they don't really put a lot of energy into, because they have to put the energy into the films that make the money. So sometimes it's really much more recommendable, if you're lucky enough to find a sales outlet that works with you, to rather go for a smaller one. Go for the people who really put in effort, people who work with 6 to 10 films per year, you know, where they select, and who have a realistic approach to your film as well, you know, because it's like, when you're director or producer, you're working together for a couple of years, so you have to get along. With the sales agents, it's the same. With the distributors, it's the same. And when I was working in sales, we had tiny films, not tiny films, but like small art house films that we wanted to bring out there, because we knew the big ones wouldn't do it. And we wanted to give these films a chance, either via festival or via distribution. And we managed to find distributors who fell in love with the film, and that's the best thing that can happen to you. If a distributor is distributing your film and then talking to other distributors about your film, yeah, that's the best promotion you can get. So really pay attention. Rather work with people that might not be so famous, but they really like you and they like your project, and they're really making the effort, and they're really putting the time into the work that it needs in order to get your film out to the world.
Thank you so much. And in moving on, we'll take 2 questions. If anyone from the audience has any questions, just throw at Jana while she's still here. Great.
So it's not a question. I'm a filmmaker. I run a media company in Lagos. And it's a totally different perspective, because there's a huge gap in content, African content, good one, good African content. And my first film got on Netflix. So I'm not thinking, I published 27 books, and from the content that I've done, I did that because I was looking for something. I was searching for information that I didn't find out there. So, I mean, I hear you, I agree with try and look for the small ones, but I feel like that we don't have a lot of people that would actually say, you know what, I want to just go and hit it. Because, I mean, everyone, I don't know, this is my first time, so just listening, I was thinking, it can't be that hard. Because the gap is there. It's there, and it's not just for the traditional, it's also on the big Netflix, on the Amazons. They're looking. So I just want to encourage everyone, put out your films. People are looking for good content, make sure it's good, and people get it. So.
Thank you.
No, thank you for that comment. I think that's really valuable. And of course, I mean, there is still a lot of work to do, because, you know, people have different viewing habits from wherever they come from, you know. You can't talk about the European film market. France is completely different from Germany, from Russia, from the Balkans, you know. Like German films never really sell. German comedies are shit, and you know, you will never get it out in France. So you rather stay in your own markets. And this is why everybody's like, on one hand, coming where they're coming from, which is totally fine. But the work that needs to be done is to open your mind and your spirit to people telling stories in a different way, you know, and not to say like, oh, I'm not used to that, I don't understand, it's not mine, you know, but to say like, okay, it's interesting. Somebody from Nigeria, different style, different story, but like, I open up my mind, I'm going to look at it, you know, I'm going to watch it because I want to, it's also about expanding your knowledge and expanding, but how do people tell things from their cultural context? And this is like where a lot of work still has to be done.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so well, thank you, Jana.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for the insight.
Thank you.
Much love is what we need upon us. Let them come together with the unity among us. UNITY, it's a unity. Yana, this a good work, you know what I'm saying?
Umoja ni nguvu, utengano udhaifu, tukisimama.